Terminator, HAL 9000. Come on, we've all seen the movies. The ones where some super smart AI decides humanity is, a problem that needs fixing. And it's a pretty terrifying thought, right? But how much of that is just Hollywood fantasy versus what's actually happening in the real world? Well, we're about to find out. We're going to dive into the core arguments from Steven Shwartz's book, Evil Robots, Killer Computers, and Other Myths, which really tries to cut through all that hype.
Okay, so let's jump right in. A survey from 2019 found that a whopping 54% of Americans believe that human-level artificial general intelligence is coming within the next decade. Think about that. More than half the country thinks we're on the verge of creating a true thinking machine. That just goes to show you how powerful this idea has become in our culture. And honestly, you can see why people feel that way. When huge names like Elon Musk are dropping bombshell quotes like this, it's gonna grab headlines. You combine that with decades of science fiction telling us the robot revolution is just around the corner, and it's easy to start believing it. But the book we're looking at today says this entire premise, it's all built on a myth. So let's tackle that myth head on. The book's first big point is all about drawing a really sharp line in the sand between the AI that haunts our imagination and the AI that we actually have today. So what sci-fi gives us is this idea of AGI, right? Artificial General Intelligence. These are conscious, self-aware machines that can think and reason and even scheme, just like a person, or maybe even better. But the author's argument against this is, well, it's pretty blunt. This isn't just far away, it's a total misunderstanding of what we're actually building. So, if today's AI isn't a thinking mind, then what is it? Let's get into how this whole thing works, because according to the author, it's all based on a very clever but very specific trick. All the AI we have today, every single bit of it, is what's known as narrow AI. The best way to think about it is like a super-powered specialist. It can be an absolute genius at one single job, whether that's beating a grandmaster at chess or figuring out what movie you should watch next. But the moment you take it outside of that one specific task, it has no understanding, no reasoning, and absolutely zero common sense. And what's really useful here is how this kind of demystifies all the buzzwords we hear. AI is the big overarching goal. But things like machine learning and deep learning, those are the engines we're using to get there. They're these specific mathematical tools for building these highly focused, narrow systems. So how does it actually work? Well, let's take predicting a house price. An AI doesn't understand the housing market. It just follows a process. First, it gulps down a massive data set of past home sales. Then, its algorithm finds mathematical patterns that connect things like square footage and location to the final price. And finally, it just applies that pattern, that function, to a new house. It's a prediction machine, not a thinking one. And that's the crucial point. This process, which is called supervised learning, is incredible at finding patterns, but it's not intelligence. The author points out that even IBM's Watson on Jeopardy wasn't some kind of thinking machine. In fact, the company's own research papers basically called it a collection of very clever programming tricks designed to find answers, not to understand the questions. Which, of course, leads to the billion-dollar question. Okay, fine, today's AI is narrow. But aren't we just on a path where these systems are going to eventually, wake up and become the AGI we see in the movies? And this is where the author makes his most controversial claim. He doesn't just say it's going to be hard or it's far away. He states flat out, there will never be a ghost in the machine. He argues that we will simply never create a computer with genuine human-like common sense. Now, let's be clear, that is a very bold statement, and a lot of folks in the AI field would definitely challenge it. The potential blind spot in this argument is that it's all based on the limits of our current methods. It doesn't really account for some future breakthrough, some scientific revolution that could completely change how we approach AI in ways we can't even imagine today. And this brings us right to the book's second major pillar. The argument is that by obsessing over this sci-fi fantasy of killer robots, we are completely missing the real dangers AI is creating for us, right here, right now. I mean, check out this stat from an MIT study the book mentions. AI-powered bots can help fake news spread 6 times faster than real, verified news. That's not some future problem. That's a clear and present danger to the very fabric of our society. The book lays out this whole landscape of immediate threats. You've got biased algorithms making flawed decisions, deep fakes designed for mass deception, huge economic disruption from job displacement, and this slow, quiet erosion of our personal privacy. these, the author argues, are the battles we should actually be fighting.
So for example, the author brings up research on automated speech recognition. Some of these systems have shown way higher error rates for female voices and the voices of people of color. And why is that? Well, the proposed reason is that the data used to train the system just wasn't very representative of everyone who'd be using it.
And this just perfectly illustrates the challenge. The author's take is that the algorithm isn't being malicious. It's a machine. It's just reflecting the statistical patterns and the flaws of the data we gave it. You know the saying, garbage in, garbage out.
So this leads directly to the third, and maybe the most important pillar of the book's argument. If we want to solve these real-world problems, we have to correctly identify the villain of the story. And guess what? It's not the machine.
The book uses the Cambridge Analytica scandal as a perfect case study. The AI was just a tool for psychological profiling using data. The tool itself wasn't evil. It was just wielded by people who had a very specific manipulative agenda.
And that really is the core idea. AI is a powerful amplifier. The real concern isn't that the tool is going to develop a mind of its own, but how people, humans, choose to use that amplification for good or for bad. The responsibility lands squarely on us, the creators and the users.
So if it's not some killer robot, what is the real villain of the story this book is trying to tell? The true villain, according to this book, is the hype itself. It's the constant fear-driven narrative that distracts all of us, making us worry about a robot apocalypse instead of doing the hard work of regulating the powerful technology that we have in our hands today. So, what's the practical thing you can take away from all this? The book offers a really simple action for all of us. The next time an AI makes a decision that affects you, for a loan, a job application, an insurance quote, just ask one simple question. What data was this thing trained on?
Ultimately, the author's biggest argument is that AI isn't some magical, all-knowing being. It's a mirror. It reflects our data, our instructions, and our intentions right back at us. And that leaves us with the real question that we all need to answer. What are we going to choose to show it?